Welcome my friends to a video on the topic of how do I start a proper late antiquity impression with the right sequence of priority purchases and items. It's often a very debated topic. How do I start an impression? What's the right and wrong way? Is there a right or a wrong? What should be the priorities? How can I save some money from not buying stuff that I actually don't need or bad quality things? How can I get the straightest possible way to a decent impression without spending too much money into it? Well, this is the first of a series of videos where I will go into that detail and share my experiences, my knowledge, and also my techniques of building up such a kit. Of course, we must start every great reenactment or late antiquity reenactment kit with a helmet and a sword. Of course, that's exactly not what you should do. What you should do is start with the simplest yet most necessary item and work your way up from that. And here is the list of how we're going to do that. Let's start with the very first obvious thing. That's the tunic. Tunic, simple one like this one here. It's just, as we've seen in other of my videos, shaped very easily. Basically cut out the form of a cross, sew it together, make some space for your neckline, and that's it. Very, very simple to do. You don't even need fancy tunics like many reenactors prefer them. Like even this one here might be even too fancy for a start. This is a hand woven and woolen tunic with woven in clavi in the historic fashion. But you don't even need that. You can just use a very simple tunic that's either just white or in just any other color. It could be as simple as this. And to add a little extra swag, you can add a little extra fabric. So length and width, in order to give it that more gravitas or even a bit more comfort. An item as simple as a rope could be your first belt. Really, you don't need much more than that, as most intricately decorated belts are a typical item of the military and probably not used that much by civilians. So for now, we just go with a simple rope. Make sure you're draping your tunic correctly, because even if you're at the start, looking good even with the simplest items is something to take care of. You can easily also transform these very practical late antique tunics into sleeveless ones. Just make a knot behind your neck like this and enjoy all the comforts of the earlier fashions of the Roman Empire. The next important thing on our list of priorities are of course shoes or sandals. They could be as simple as those very basic sandals here. Just 2 layers, a few cords. You can actually easily make them at home. Cost around between 50 to 150 bucks. They are really practical. Other option are simple campaghi. Campaghi is a very, very popular shoe in late antiquity, used throughout society. Probably one of the cheapest options, and one that you can easily make yourself at home as well, are those cavatinae sort of shoes. They're basically made from one piece of leather, cut out in a specific pattern, then sewn together, like for example here at the heel and at the front. These usually last you for a couple of weeks if you use them daily, to a couple of months, or even a couple of years when you're just going to a few events a year. Next on our list of items, we should strive to have something to keep us warm. So other than our tunic, a cloak is obviously the best choice and should be very high up on your priority list. Now, if you want to keep stuff simple, it's totally enough to have a square sagum, square cloak. Very easy to get. You can decorate it by fringing the edges and very simple to use. You don't even actually need a fibula for it. So in most scenarios, you can just wear it around your shoulders and totally fine with it like this to keep you warm around the campfire at night, at the events, on the way home. And even you can use the sort of little fold here against the rain and will be totally fine. So very easy, cheap solution, and very easy to get in every store. Just make sure it's nice, good quality wool, pure wool of course, and try to have it in normal tabby weave. If you're up for something a little bit more sophisticated, then I would suggest you take a closer look at the alicula. Now, while the alicula is maybe not as protective as a larger square cloak, it is a very handy and nice item to have, and it's basically like a large hood that you just wear over your shoulders. It's very simple cutting pattern, very simple to make, and you can definitely add also some fringes for decoration. It's a lot of work, but easy to do. So this is a very typical look for the 4th century. You see a lot of art, mosaics, etc., representing mainly hunters or simple folk like shepherds, and having this as a form of light protection with them. If you need something even more substantial, and you're not afraid of a little bit more complicated cutting pattern, then the Lahun type cloaks, so-called casula, is your thing. The Lahun cloak, called like that because they were found in Lahun, Egypt, is probably a type of casula or a type of penula, as it's also called. And it's just like the alicula, but a bit longer, more substantial. You also just wear it over yourself. It has a very nice hood with it, which is a speciality due to a little bit more complicated cutting pattern. You can also wear it like this, hide your face, maybe against sandstorms or some other inconveniences that you encounter. Now it's of course longer and protects you quite well all around. Again, very typical civilian garment from what we know from depictions, very practical, and you can also wear it up like this. Still have a bit of poncho style all around, but your arms are freer to move. Now, while this needs quite good fabrics that are protecting you sufficiently, it's not generally very expensive, and cutting pattern is a bit more complex than obviously just buying a square cloak, but totally feasible. So I recommend to go for this type of cloak when you are starting out and want to start with a nice easy kit that's just from so far basically 3 items. Small complementary items that you do not really need at this stage, but that will make you fully functional even in this first incarnation of your display, are the following. Very simple small leather purse where you can put your personal items, money, or anything that you need to transport, your little knife, etc. Very simple to make and absolutely practical. It's just sewn together at the side. It's a find, it's based on archaeology of course. Then very important, a simple wooden bowl. Why wooden? Unlike ceramics or glass, you can't destroy it, you can just put it in your bags, etc., throw it around. You can eat out of it, you can drink out of it. It's your cup, it's your bowl, you can do everything with it. It's absolutely sufficient and easy to get and cheap. Then you don't even need to really at this stage, but it's also very practical. It's just a simple wooden bowl, wooden plate basically to eat. You can get that anywhere and it's as authentic as the next thing. Then optional as well, but I really highly recommend it, a very simple leather bag. This one here is based on the Comacchio shipwreck finds. Very simple to do, it's just a square, you cut it out, you sew it on the 2 edges here and here, and then you have a bit of leftover that you can sew into the edge and make your strap around. The original was actually exactly like this and also knotted here because they made it out of a whole skin, so you just don't have enough for the entire strap, you just knot it together and you have enough space to put everything you need in here. If you don't have the leather, just use some sort of fabric. You can just sew it together as well, put a drawstring in and you have your bag. Then also optional, but a very handy item, and certainly you need this a lot more and a lot sooner than a sword. That's your knife. Just a very simple knife. Here we go. You can use that for everything. It's also a little weapon, of course, so even if you're simple, still you have something to defend yourself. And that is, of course, a little sheath. And that's it. That is all you need for your first kit.